So this is my BMW X3 3.5 M Sport 2014 model. Really enjoy this vehicle. I noticed a few months ago though that all of a sudden the lid on the glove box was starting to peel off or pull away, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. It looked kind of odd, and over the last few weeks, especially with the heat here in the summer, it's pulled off even more. So I tried to do some research to see what's going on with that and how I might be able to fix it, and unfortunately there doesn't seem to be many good videos for it. So I thought, well, I'm going to try and take this thing apart, take out the glove box and see what I can find, and maybe somebody else can glean some insights in the process. So I've cleaned out the glove box itself, and I'm ready to proceed. You'll notice that there's a number of screws. There's in fact 8 of them. They're a Torx 20. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then underneath you're going to notice there's another 3. Let's see if I can get that going right. So there's 1 there, another 1 there, and another 1 there. So I'm going to set up the camera so that I can work with both hands, and then we'll start to take these apart and see how we do. Okay, so I've set up the camera. Let's see what we can do here. I think I'm going to start with the ones at the bottom. Get those out of here. There's 1. Get in there when you can't see. Two. 3. All right, now let's open up. We'll take these ones out of here too. Looks like they all might be the same size, which is good. Don't need to try and figure out. Yeah, the ones from the bottom, the ones from the top are exactly the same, so we don't need to keep them separated. Intentionally kind of work from the outside and then towards the middle, try to keep it balanced. As far as I can tell, that's all the screws now. I've taken out 8. Let's see what's going on. Interesting. So So, got this closed up. See if I can't try to pull somehow. I had it moving. Seems to be one big piece here. I'm gonna fiddle with it and then we'll see what we gotta do to try and get this off. So I started to pull from the very bottom, just gently. Had to take out the floor mat because it was obstructing a little bit. But as I pulled from the very bottom, just loosening it, there's some tabs and I was able to get this all coming down. And so that's out of the way. I don't need to do anything with that. So what I found once I got those 8 screws out, it was really hard to see it. But underneath in here, right underneath there, just above where this screw is, and the same thing on the other side is another screw. So I need to get in there because that's obviously still holding the glove box in place.
Trust me.
I don't feel like that, thanks.
Pardon?
I don't feel like that.
You don't?
No.
Huh. I'd forgotten that I had those and I thought, oh, Joe, that's what you'll want. But it's too warm out here, I guess.
Yep. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
So again, under there, same screw as the other 8. It's just really hard to get under here and see it. So you gotta feel your way a little bit, unless you're able to lay on your back in here, which is not that easy. So I'm just feeling, there we go, feeling to get my finger, get the bit on the screw. I'm screwing it. There we go. So 10 of those screws. Let's see what difference that makes. Oh yeah, you can see that. Oh, nice and easy. Boy, that just comes out like a piece of cake. Love it. You can see here on the back, hopefully. Can you see that? There's just a little tab. We're gonna pull that out of there so we can, there we go. Just a nice easy little clip. And we're gonna pull that glove box out of there. And I'm assuming it'll go back exactly the same way. So let me go. I'm gonna pull this out of here and then so I can examine it a little bit better to see what's going on and why it's pulled out of there. So as you can see, I pulled this whole thing out of the car. And in the process, I noticed that there's these clips right here and the same thing on the other side. Now, it wasn't as obvious when it's in because it's blocked on each side. And so to be able to pull the clips out is not going to be as easy. But once you got the whole thing out, you're actually able to take a pair of pliers And you just go on there and you'll be able to pull that clip out of there. And we'll go to the other side and do the same thing with this clip. And that'll allow the, there we go. That'll allow the lid to come off. Let me see. There's a mechanism on the side. Let's see what it takes to get that out of there. We may need to latch that. See that? I want to pull it out of there. So somehow that's latched onto there. Okay, so that pulls out of there nicely. Should be able to do something similar to this side. It's a matter of just getting this guy off of there. We can probably just pull that through there. So I always want to be gentle with it so you don't break it, obviously. Actually, the solution, which you may be able to see there, was I was able to pull a little clip right out of there. See that little clip? I pulled that out. And that should free up there. Yeah, there you go. So I'll be able to pull that out of there and pull that out of the other side. Now that I have the lid off, I can start to examine what's going on here. With this. It doesn't seem to that it's just a press in. It looks like there's actually, you might be able to see here, where it's like the rubber itself somehow is where the rubber of the plastic is actually torn. I'm not sure why it just keeps releasing more and more. The question now is, how do we best get that back in there so it's nice and flush? You can see what it should look like on these sides, and you can see how we need to get that back in there like that. The reality is, though, it's not just a matter of pressing it in, as you can tell, because it's just going to pop out of there. But my feeling is that if we put a nice bead of epoxy all the way in there, and we feed that in there the way it should be, and then we'll use some clamps nice and lightly on there, that we should be able to get that fitting back in there really nice, and nobody will notice the difference. But I think the key to the whole thing is going to be a little bit of epoxy. Otherwise, you can always buy a new one, but you don't necessarily want to do that. So let me get some epoxy going and we'll give her a shot. Okay, so you can see I got a bunch of C-clamps, or I'm not sure that they're truly C-clamps, but a couple different sizes. They're not too heavy duty, otherwise they might damage the rubber. But what I'm going to end up doing on this is after I get the epoxy mixed up, I'm going to ultimately start clipping them around like that once I got the epoxy in, and be able to hold all of this in place so we get a nice seal and it looks like it was originally supposed to look. So let's get the epoxy mixed up. So I use just a general 2-part epoxy, nothing special. I actually use that for my golf clubs as well. When I put new heads on, you always squeeze equal beads of this, and I'm going to use a fair amount, so I'm going to get some nice beads going along here. A, part B. I want them to end up looking as close to the same as possible. You can see that I need more of this one. I need to get a toothpick. Sometimes gets a little clogged. Now these are typically about a 5-minute epoxy, so you can't mess around here too much. Once you get the amounts that you want, you gotta mix the two together. I'm just using a tongue depressor that I've broken off to make it small, but they tend to be strong and work well for mixing and applying ultimately to the item. But we want to make sure we get all of this stuff mixed up really nice. The whole idea behind 5-minute epoxy is they don't stick until you mix the two together. And once you mix the two together, they have a chemical reaction and they start to create a very, very strong glue. So hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. I'm just going to go along inside and I'm going to apply a bead of this epoxy. Don't need to worry about what it looks like inside, because you'll never see that. We want to put it on the inside, but we want to, especially on this outside edge, because that's where it's going to be holding to the outer, this outer bead here. And that's where the real strength is going to be of all of this. Obviously inside you don't need to worry about it, but definitely outside be careful, because you don't want it spreading out over above, in which case it would make a mess. I'm going to feed that in there. When I put it together, it's going to squeeze inside, but hopefully not come out. Make sure we've got some really good glue in there. Yeah, it's looking good. There we go. Gonna move that off to the side, and you see I intentionally left the tongue depressor on the glue, because that'll tell me later whether it's stiffened up and solidified. But for now, we're just going to start working this in here and putting the clamps on. Feed that in there real nice. Put a clamp on. Feed the next one on there. Put a clamp on. Put the next one in. Put a clamp on. This corner, I'm going to use one of the bigger ones, to make sure we get a really nice, good solid. Yeah, I like that. That's looking good. Same around here. So you see how that's going, and then I'll use another big one. Big one at the end. Boy, that looks really, really nice. I love it. Be careful, sometimes you want to pop off. There we go. Yes, that looks really good. So with the epoxy that I'm using, a 2-part epoxy, it kind of gets pretty firm in about 5 to 10 minutes. Ideally, you want to leave it 24 hours. But it's been now about an hour, and as you can see here on the sheet that I used in advance, I left my tongue depressor on there. It's pretty solid, so I think I should be pretty good to remove my clamps. and to be able to put it back into the car. So let's take a look at what it looks like. Ideally, you want to leave those clamps on there as little time as possible. As you can see there, it's not bad. It's pretty good. That's what it should look like normally. And that's what it looks like based on what I've done. There's a little bit of glue on there, but you're ultimately not going to see it when it's in the glove box there. So pretty pleased with that. And if ever it were to come off, and I highly doubt it, this glue is pretty tough stuff. We can always glue it again, but right now, I'd say that's a pretty good fix. Let's put it back in the car. Actually, before I put this back in the car, I gotta put it back into the glove box and put some of these clips on. So let's go ahead and do that. It's gonna be the reverse of what we did in the first place. Come around the side here. First thing you can see, we're just going to slide it in these openings like that. And then we've got this piece over here. Let's just close that up there. First thing we're going to do is take this little piece and we're going to just push that back. Push that back in there. See if we can do this easy. I can see it better upside down. It's just a little push pin. There we go. Just slides in there real nice. With the glove box closed. This way. Not sure what's making all that noise in there. Oh yeah, it's just one of those pieces that unclipped. So the first little clamp in there, just to make sure that it lines up. This is a little tricky because it's so... There we go. That's slid in there. We're just going to give that a little bit of a push in there to make sure that it's solid. Do the other side. Move the camera so I can. There we go. Same thing on this side. Just gonna make sure those. There we go. In there. Let's tap it a little bit. There we go. That's what was making all that noise in there. Just fits in. So now, I should be able to open and close. Open and close the glove box. This little piece just clips back in there. Cool. Now we'll go and put that in the car. Okay, so we're rolling again. I've got the glove box back down here, ready to put it back in. We're just going to go reverse of the way we took it out. First, this clip is just going to slide back in there. That's for the light. Then this all fits so it fits up in here. And you'll notice back here there's a little little piece that sticks out, and there's a hole back there, so you want to fit that. You want to fit that into that hole. There we go. See that? So the first thing we're going to do now, it's sitting there nice and snug, and that's looking great around there. We're going to take a couple of those screws, and we're going to put them back in there. The one on the far side and the one on this side. Again, we're going to kind of feel our way into it. It'd be smart to try and use a mirror to fit those back in their holes. Just tighten that up in there. Let's open that up, and before we tighten that all the way, we're just going to make sure that these other ones line up real nicely. Go to the other side. Okay, so we got 2 screws in on the top, 1 on the bottom. We'll proceed to keep putting in the rest of the screws. This part is relatively easy. Don't over tighten it. Nice hand tight. That's looking good. All the screws in there are done. That closes up. Lid's looking great. It's all on there. Now what we've got to do is put the bottom on again. Let's get my light set up here. Sometimes there's elements that will kind of slide around. For instance, this little light here, I want to make sure that it's back in where it should be, just clips in there. And then you can see here, there's a clip. Let me just fit that right down. I don't know, let me see if I can help you see that. Hopefully you can see way down in there. There you go, right up in there. There's a little clip area that that's got to fit into right there. And then that should just slide really nicely. That should fit really nicely back up in there. We just clip these guys in there. Beautiful, beautiful. Now we've got 3 screws left, right? And those ones are going to just go in the same little well holes that they came out of. Cool, that's done. I'll put my floor mat back in. There we go. Glove box all fixed. I hope this video has been helpful to you, and look forward to any comments you might have.